All right, so I am here with my very special guest, ACRacebest here. Race, if you want to say hi, you can if you want to.
Uh, I don't want to.
That's fine. That's fine.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Hi.
Uh, this is intense. This is my
It's
first,
gonna be.
first,
Oh,
very first.
you never forget your first.
Hmm. Yeah.
Remember that. Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
All right. So I know you're a very busy man, so I'm gonna see if we can get some of these questions out of the way, and we'll call it a night.
Okay. Cool.
All right, so it's gonna be. Oh, also, I just want to like to point out if there's any point in during this, if you want to ask me a question, just feel free to, and we can ask. I can ask a question. I can answer a question that you might have.
All right.
All right, so you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so my first question is, how did you get involved in this particular fandom, this brony phenomenon?
Oh, I'll give you the long version. The this I should say my involvement with the Brony fandom stemmed from involvement in a different fandom. I was part of the Rescue Ranger, Chippendale Rescue Ranger fandom, and my that's where I met my girlfriend Toodles, and she and I met there. And then one day she was like, "Hey, why don't you check out this other cartoon show that's going on right now?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm so open to anything. What do you got?" And she said, "It's My Little Pony." And I said, "Accept that. Accept that." And she was stubborn. I'm stubborn, but she can be more stubborn at times. So she convinced me to watch an episode. She made a deal with me saying, one episode, if I don't like it, I never have to watch it again. So I took her up on that deal, and it was Fall with Her Friends that she showed me, and I ended up being impressed with the characters and the animation of the story. I enjoyed it more than I expected, but I didn't think that I was hooked by any means, and then a week later or so, the second season was about to begin for My Little Pony, and I was just moving out to college, and I had some free time on my hands, so I decided, maybe I'll check out one more episode, just for fun. So I watched the first two episodes of the first season, then I watched the third, the fourth, and the next thing I know, I had watched the entire first season in 3 days, and went, oh, crap. And that's what led me into becoming involved with MLP. It got me into the show. Then I started seeing a bunch of videos that were being posted all over the place, and was amused even before I had gotten into the show by some of the fan content that was out there. So it inspired me to make some of my own, and the rest is history.
Very interesting. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what was your initial reaction to the fact that there was a bunch of guys that watched a little girl show?
It wasn't a lot of surprise, because for me, I've always been a cartoon fan. So people being into most any other cartoons doesn't really strike me as weird. I had some friends who are my age and males who I know were watching the show, but it never piqued my interest. It never caught me in a way where I was going to watch it on my own. But it wasn't, I don't know, I never really thought of it as strange or bad or negative. I just was like, oh, okay, my friends are watching it, cool, good for them. So yeah, I didn't really have any kind of reaction towards it in that sense. It was to me another cartoon, but a cartoon that I had no plans in watching at the
Interesting.
time.
Interesting. All right. So what are your thoughts about the show before, and what are your thoughts on it like now?
Now, before what?
Like before, like seasons one and two, and like the show, like now that's in its like sixth season.
Okay, I gotcha. Well, I was really impressed with the first season. It got me hooked, and the second season I really enjoyed. It's funny because some people will talk about how the show they feel like, oh, the quality here, or oh, the it used to be so good and now it's just okay. I hear that a lot. But I honestly, I'm going to throw it out there. I think a lot of it are blinders, where a lot of people were still kind of stuck in the hype train. And so just the way that they saw a lot of these episodes, because a lot of us watched these episodes together, like during season 2, I was up Saturday morning. I was online. I was talking with my friends. We were all, sitting around the TV. Where now, where I'm a little bit busier, it's more on my schedule, not so much just a lack of interest. I'll just sometimes be like, okay, I'll catch the show, either later that Saturday or by Sunday. But I think for me, I don't think I see a drop by any means in quality. I just think that we're having what we've always had, which are some episodes hit, some episodes miss. Sometimes you have a clump of episodes that miss, and then you have people that start freaking out. But I think that the show staff have done a great job. There's some writers that I prefer over others, but I think the animation quality has only gotten better. So it's fun to see where this show goes, and since they are 6 seasons in, I find it interesting to see where they can take it from this point. I know we always talk about the concept of maybe finding out more of the background of some of these ponies, so I think that would be cool, but I'm still enjoying it. I'm still having fun.
Yeah, same here. All right. This one's a little hard to kind of word. So, how did you create a name for yourself? Like, you can either say like, how did you create like your channel, or how did you create the name ACRacebest?
I could give you both.
Sure.
So the name ACRacebest, it stemmed from Racebest, which is the name that I came up with when I was a kid. Well, I still kind of am, just mentally. But the Racebest was just a name I created for AOL Instant Messenger. I'm a race fan, so it's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah.
And when I made the YouTube channel that I was going to be uploading stuff to, which initially, when I made the channel, I had this grand idea that I was going to be making content for Chippendale Rescue Rangers. And I made, I think, one video, and then the channel sat for a year and a half. But the whole reason there's an AC in the front was because for some reason it wouldn't let me take Racebest on YouTube. It said that name was taken, I guess. So I tagged on the AC in front of it for Acorn Cafe, which is the web forum for the Chippendale Rescue Ranger fandom. And so that's where that name came from. And then as far as content wise, how did I make a name for myself? I guess within the fandom comes from, like I said, I was inspired by a lot of the content I was seeing produced, just wacky videos that people were editing together, and I've always enjoyed stuff like that. But I hadn't made a lot of stuff. I had edited a lot of videos, like home videos and whatnot, and made like a movie back in the day with some friends, but I wanted to try my hand at this kind of editing. And so I did. I made a bunch of short, goofy videos, some PMV style videos with either really strange songs to use with MLP, like that Indian Thriller song. I'm like, I gotta make a PMV with this. And I did. I don't know why I did, but I did. And it wasn't until the big stride for the channel, because prior to making the Bronies Reacts, I had 167 subscribers. So I was earning a bit of a following, and I was happy with where the channel was going. But then, the Teens React to My Little Pony came out, and I decided, it'd be so cool to make a Bronies React to this. At the time, I wasn't thinking I'm going to call it Bronies React. I just wanted to make a response video to it. And that, of course, rocketed the channel to new heights, and it's been a wild ride ever since.
That's pretty amazing. All right, so who would you say is your favorite pony?
My favorite pony is Rainbow Dash. She was the pony that when I first watched that first episode of MLP, Fall Weather Friends, she was the biggest surprise to me, that there's a character like this in this show that I had grown up watching commercials for My Little Pony, and it was always the most terrible thing to come on during the morning was, oh, here's a commercial for that show that has these really girly pony things and you can brush their hair. No. Well, then Rainbow Dash shows up on my computer screen. I'm like, what the heck? There's a tomboy pony? This is cool. So she's always been my favorite. I'm very loyal when I latch on to characters. So for Rainbow Dash, I've stuck with her through the tough times and been with her for the good times. So yeah, she's been my favorite from the beginning.
So would you say Fall Weather Friends is your favorite episode?
No, it's not my favorite, but it's the one I'll always credit to getting me hooked into the show, even though it took a slow process to get there. Like I said, it took a few weeks for me to hit that second episode. My favorite episode, it's kind of a liquid choice here. It kind of depends on the mood I'm in, I guess. But one of my favorite episodes is is episode 100.
Oh,
because of just how zany, how crazy, how wacky, how much they kind of just said, we're going to degaff this and just see where it goes. And I thoroughly enjoyed what they did with that episode. So, yeah, episode 100 was probably my favorite. I know that, like, in that top 5 is, like, the Season 2 finale, the Season 4 finale with Tyrek. But I think episode 100 takes the cake for me.
Well, you can thank Larson for that.
Thank you, Larson. Guy.
All right. So, has there been anything in the fandom that has like wowed you in any way? Like, has there been like something that somebody made that make you go, "Holy wow, that's amazing"?
I was really impressed with the music scene, actually, when I first got into the fandom. I remember some of the songs in there, and I'm going to name some, like, really, I don't want to say cliche ones, but they were ones that genuinely, like, impressed me. Like Odyssey Eurobeat's Discord song, and Acoustic Brony and Mando Pony's Loyalty. I remember just kind of sitting back and thinking, like, wow, like, this is really quality music coming from people that are just fans of a show about My Little Pony. I really enjoyed that. Also, I'm a huge fan of the animation scene. I love seeing what the animators come up with in this fandom. I can't really pinpoint specific projects because there's so many of them out there that have just been, like, top notch or very good, and I know that there's a lot of time and effort that goes into those. So I've always enjoyed those kind of projects. Both the music scene, like I said, specifically back in the day. I know we always reminisce, but for me, just I guess it was also the fact that a lot of those songs that I fell in love with early on. And then later getting to meet the artists that created that, and then it was like, we all hit it off really well. That was always a cool experience.
Nice. All right. So besides ponies, what else do you like to do? Do you have a current job?
I have a current job. I am a mechanical engineer by Monday through Friday. I also work at a racetrack on Saturdays, either as an announcer, but always as a videographer. On other Saturdays, I compete in racing events, demolition derbies, trailer racing, enduro, all the junk car type of racing that you see at fairs. We do that on kind of a bi-monthly basis. I've also done work with writing press releases for race teams. But my big kick lately has been my, I guess people call it an obsession, but my fascination with the movie Zootopia. That's taken quite the reins as well.
We witnessed this.
I didn't know if anyone noticed, but yeah, I like that movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. One thing I actually would like to let you know about is we actually have our own enduro thing up here. It's called Star Speedway. It's like a half-mile dirt track that they just like shove a bunch of cars and they just go around a circle and they just destroy each other.
Yeah, we our enduros. We've gotten upwards of about 40 cars in our enduros, but our course is like a road course style course. I've seen enduros at these dirt tracks, like the one you're talking about, where there's so many cars on the track that literally there's nowhere to go but into the car in front of you, and those just crack me up. And I'd love to be a part of one of those someday.
Yeah, they're really fun. They're
They're
really neat.
goofy. They're
Yeah.
goofy, and we don't take it seriously at all. Like, there's some people who get in these cars and then think they're like NASCAR drivers, and we're just like, no,
No.
we know what we're doing. We know what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. So, for those of us who don't know, I mean, I kind of know a little bit about it, but what exactly is the low budgets?
All right, so the Low Budgets is a series on my channel, and it's kind of my baby there, where it's you could easily say it's not the most popular content on my channel, but it's something that I'm die hard with. And it's actually been picking up speed, which is really cool to see. The Low Budgets is a series where my best friend and I, his name's Tommy, we take cars from the junkyard, we prep them up, and then we compete with them, whether it's in a race or a demolition derby type event or a trailer race, which is the whole concept of a trailer race is to knock out everyone else's trailer on the racetrack. And what we've done with the series is it started out as simply just us working on the cars, because there's been so many moments that happened when we used to do this, when we used to work on our cars, that I'm just like, oh my God, if we only caught that on camera. And then all of a sudden it became a priority of mine. We have to catch this on camera. And yeah, it's just a series where we crash up a bunch of cars, and it's literally us destroying just junkyard cars. And what's fun about it is what we started doing in recent years, thanks to, again, my girlfriend Toodles. She'll paint up these cars as ponies from the show, and now we're starting to branch into other characters from other, I guess you could say, franchises or whatnot. Like, no surprise here, but there's going to be one or two Zootopia cars coming up in the near future of the show. But yeah, so getting the fandom involved in it a little bit more. I've had a number of bronies come out to the events just to see a Rainbow Dash themed car hit the track, or I won a demolition derby in a Pinkie Pie car. It was all pink. It had balloons. It looked like a big Easter egg out there, and it won the demolition derby. So yeah, it's been fun to kind of cross, and it also helps me cross promote, because we have a racing channel called Low Budget TV, and that's where we do a bunch of racing content. And I feel like the cross promotions actually really helped both channels in a way. I know that our Low Budget TV channel is now closing in on 20,000 subscribers, so both are growing really well. But yeah, the Low Budgets, it's goofy, it's funny. If you like cars at all, you'll probably enjoy it. But even if you don't, I think there's a lot of funny moments within it, and a lot of throwbacks to My Little Pony and all sorts of in-jokes there.
Oh, nice. My follow-up question would be, what got you into cars and enduro racing?
Oh, man, I grew up at the racetrack. Ever since before I can remember, my dad started taking me out to the local Saturday night races, and it was a part of life. And it is a part of life. It's when I didn't know a Saturday without being at the racetrack, except during the off season. If there was a race happening at the racetrack and I wasn't there, something didn't feel right. And it's always been like that. It's a lot of people, they plan out their weekends like, oh, maybe I'll do this on Saturday, maybe I'll do this on Sunday. But for me, I always know between the months of February and November where I'm going to be on a Saturday. I'm going to be at a racetrack, and the involvement really is what's really picked up. It's kind of funny because there's a lot of branches where you could say, oh, it's similar to the Brony community, because in the Brony community, I had some success hit with like Bronies React and the YouTube channel itself, and now I'm able to, and I love doing it. When we go to these conventions, we're able to perform improv comedy or host panels or whatnot. In a similar way, that level of going from being in the stands to then having a microphone in hand and being part of the show happened at the racetrack too, where we became announcers, kind of in a funny way. We, the guy who was running the track saw us walking around with a camera, and they had a no camera policy, but he saw what we had been posting online and he loved it. And he's like, I got to tap into this. So I wanted to see what you guys could do with a mic. And next thing we know, we did some announcing, and they loved it, and we became announcers at the racetrack. So yeah, it's just been, racing's always been a part of my life. It's always going to be a part of my life, and it's something that I love that I can branch the two, between, like, you know, the brony side and the racing side, and sometimes bring people in from one to another. So there's people at the racetrack who, they might not admit it, but I know they recognize, like, the Fluttershy car when it comes out, and I'm like, I know what you know. I know you know the show, you just won't admit it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna skip that question because I think you already answered it. So what's it like going to so many cons? Do you feel like it's like your second job, kind of?
Well, it is work. When we go to these conventions, you know, Saber Spark is the guy that, you know, we're kind of like a, I want to say package deal, in the sense that if you find one, more than likely the other one's nearby.
Of course.
And yeah, so we it doesn't feel like work. In the same sense that working at the racetrack doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like, oh, I got to go to the track. It's like, all right, time to go to the track. I love going to these conventions, but it is a lot of work and a lot of time, and I think sometimes it can be overlooked a little bit, in the sense that, like, you know, sometimes we'll have people be like, dude, why aren't you hanging out? And it's like, we're busy. We're really busy. BronyCon's a great example. That convention just happened a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And I flew into BronyCon I arrived at 6 in the morning. And the convention, you know, I think opening ceremony started around 10, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah, so we'll just say that.
We'll say that.
And so I got into the hotel probably about 7:30-ish, and I tried my best to sleep. I made a mistake on my flight where I accidentally got one of the rows that doesn't recline, so I was like, oh, this is fantastic. So I didn't sleep great on the plane. You know, you get to the convention, the last thing your body's thinking about doing is sleeping, because it's like, oh my gosh, the hype, it's all about to happen.
Yeah, but your mind is like, fun times.
I'm like, I know, and I'm just like, mind, shut up, I need to sleep. And so I never was able to fully rest up for that convention. I basically, because we had a panel at 12:30, and we got going on the con floor around probably 10:45, 11, and yeah, so we had the panel at 12:30. We had 4 panels on Friday, which spanned from the 12:31 all the way to the Bronies Rec, which ended at 10:45, and then following the Bronies Rec panel, we always try to, you know, make time, especially at BronyCon, because there's so many people. We always try to kind of organize an area where if anyone wants to get a picture or an autograph or just, you know, talk for a few minutes. So we were there till about midnight, and then grabbed a bite to eat and pretty much hit the hay, went to bed. And then, so I got like 5 hours of sleep after that, and it's still, my body never recovered, because then we had 5 panels on Saturday, and then Sunday was like the chill out day where we just had a little bit to do with the charity auction. But I even on that Tuesday after BronyCon, I was still like recovering from that, and it's in no way like a complaint. Like we feel completely humbled, and it's awesome that we're able to be part of the show and help make BronyCon or any convention that we go to, you know, something that people could talk about, something that they enjoy. It's all about, you know, putting on a good show for us. And even though you could qualify it as we're working, because we are, it's so much fun that it doesn't feel like work.
That's very interesting. You know, I was there. I got to meet you and the guys and hand out my business cards for this little podcast that I'm doing.
Yep. Hopefully, I was more than half awake when we met up.
All right. Um. I was gonna say something. Darn it! I lost my train of thought.
Did it involve BronyCon?
I don't know. I guess I'll come back to it. I guess. All right. So, what kind of camera do you recommend, or what do you use whenever you do your vlogs?
I've recently, well, not recently. I upgraded from what I started with. You can see the difference in quality from the early vlogs that I used to do. But with with my camera, I don't even know where it is. But it's a higher end, I'd say middle class Sony camcorder. I've worked with Sonys for most of my YouTube career, I guess you could say. And the it's funny. The biggest issue I've had with these cameras, and I finally figured it out. It took me like 4 years to figure this out. But folks, you do live and you do learn. I was having audio issues where I was like, why is it not balancing correctly? And I finally found the setting to fix it. So hallelujah. But yeah, no, they're like middle class. Sony camcorders, but my recommendation for anyone getting started is to not go out and buy an expensive camera. It is so easy these days to get a really good HD Sony camcorder or any camcorder for under $300. If you're really savvy, you could find one for probably under $200, and they're good cameras. The quality's there. For the most part, the audio is probably there too, and it's because a lot of people ask us like, "Oh, how much money should I invest in my new YouTube channel?" And it's like you don't the money there. It doesn't have to be invested unless you're doing some crazy filming. It's a lot easier to get started with one of those cameras. So I've always recommended them. They're usually really reliable too, and tend to be very easy to edit with. So. Yeah, that would be my recommendation, and those are the kind of cameras I use.
All right, awesome. I think I remembered that question from the last one. I think it was how did you meet all these really interesting people? Was it just the conventions and stuff?
So which interesting people are you referring to?
Like the ones you met at BronyCon, like Paleo and Jack's Blade and
The
Saber.
gang.
The gang.
Yeah, Saber Spark's a funny story because he and I obviously hit it off at some point. But when we first met, and the first time I met any of these people in person was at conventions. Saber and Paleo I met at Everfree Northwest. Jack's Blade I met at BronyCon. Black Griffin, met him at BronyCon. When I first met these people, though, it was such a handshake, hello, nice to meet you, here's a hug, hey. It wasn't, like, I think a lot of people thought, like, there were fireworks right at the beginning, and it was so romantically lit and everything. It's like, no, we were just, like, goofing off and going, hey, what's up? I met most of these people online. I interacted with most of these guys through projects like the Bernie's React that I was working on well before I met any of these people in person. So I had to go and introduce myself and say, hey, I have this idea, or hey, I like this video of yours, And I was kind of lucky because when I made the first Bernie's React, with that interaction and with the success that it hit off with, I was able to also get to meet a lot of the music community and meet a lot of the musicians and talk with them early on from my involvement with the fandom. So there's always been a good relationship there where I've been able to get to meet a lot of people. And but convention's definitely the place where I've met everybody in person, and they're wild and crazy.
So how many conventions do you normally go to? Is it like 4 or 5?
I think the last 2 years I could be wrong here. My math's not great. I'm just an engineer, but my I think we hit 6 last year, and this year I could be wrong, but I think we're about to hit 7 potentially this year, maybe 6. The reason I always forget is all the years tend to blur together. And but no, it's a lot of conventions throughout the year, especially during the summertime run. We only have, I think, a potential but unannounced one more convention that we have in the works for 2016, and then it's going to be right back hitting the gas for 2017. We've already been talking to a number of conventions for next year as well.
PonyCon, maybe?
Oh, are you asking specifically PonyCon?
Maybe.
When you ask PonyCon, I'm like, yeah, it's a PonyCon.
Oh, well,
you mean PonyCon?
Yeah, Pony NYC Con.
I hear you. I cannot confirm or deny.
Oh, that's
Actually, I could probably deny.
That's fine. That's fine. I know.
No, I will deny in the sense of no. We it's a different convention. We haven't. Well, even technically, PonyCon is 2017 in January. We haven't heard from PonyCon. Most of the conventions that we do work at, we'll communicate with. And if there's ever a convention that wants to work with us, we're happy to talk and see what we can work out. And there's been a couple new ones each year, and always love. Like I know that one that stood out this year as far as on the news circuit was Pacific PonyCon. It was a beautiful venue, very well run. Timing was pretty on key, and I mean for first year, we're excited to see if we can work something out again for next year. But as far as PonyCon goes, we tell this to people because they ask us a lot about mini conventions. The best way or the best chance of us ending up at a convention is letting that convention know that you are interested in us being there. That's the best way for these conventions to go, oh, okay, it's worth it to us to seek these people out. So if you want us at PonyCon, let them know.
I definitely will try.
10-4.
All right. So, what kind of programs do you normally use or recommend to, like, video edit?
If you're getting started, it does not hurt to use some of the standard video editors. I started with Windows Movie Maker, which isn't great, but it gets the basics done. These days I use Sony Vegas for all of my editing. There are other routes you could go. Like if you have a Mac, what is it? iMovie, I think, is what we've used a lot on our racing side for videos. So there's programs out there that are pretty cheap, if not that come with computers that you can use definitely to get started with. And then if you want to go the next level, like I've tried my hand at After Effects, and I need a lot of practice with that. That more comes in with like, the actual editing of a video in the sense of like taking a PMV, or I should say taking clips from the show and turning it into a PMV and masking things out and all that. But I know a lot of the PMVers are masterful with that program. But Sony Vegas is mine, but I've always recommended starting again. The cheap route is never a bad way to start.
Nice. Yeah, I'm using a Mac, and I tend to use iMovie. I just didn't realize how really long it is to import videos and then export videos and then upload them to YouTube. And it's like, gosh, this takes an awful long time.
Oh yeah, and then there's times where I'll be at conventions doing the vlogs where I'll have to transfer footage, charge battery, and do 4 things at once just to make sure I still have a camera running by the end of the convention.
Yeah. Now, would you use the same programs if you were running a podcast? Like if you wanted to cut certain things and.
I would, just because I'm so used to using Sony Vegas. With our podcast that we have a podcast that
yes
typically happens bi-weekly every Wednesday night, and so every other Wednesday night. And actually, funny enough, we were going to have a show this week, but Saber's out of town. So he does a lot of the editing as far as putting that stuff together. But whenever I'm making, whether it's a big project, a little project, I always jump right into Sony Vegas just because I'm so used to using it. It's the program that I know. Oh, I gotta hit this key. I gotta switch this over. Oh, I know why it's not working. So, yeah, Sony Vegas is the program that I typically will use for anything.
And for any of those that are watching, Ace does run a podcast every other Wednesday. It's called the Semi-Perfect Podcast. Just go to subscribe to his channel so that way you can keep in touch with him and his podcast as well.
You should do that.
All right. Are there any local hangouts or meetups that you go to that like are involve bronies, or do you just like to meet up with like normal people?
I like how you say that, normal people. There are actually the first time I ever got together with anyone from the fandom was a local SoCal meetup, which was, I know, pretty strong back in the day. I haven't been around because they're more located closer to they have a lot of people in like the Orange County area. I'm not as close to that, so I remember going, and what it was a meetup to go to the 24-hour event at Disneyland, and I was like, I gotta do this. I gotta meet up with the bronies, and it was perfect timing because I had released the Bronies React, the first ever Bronies React, a week before this meetup, and that Bronies React hit it off immediately. It climbed up to, I think, 100,000 views in 3 days. It exploded, and I had a lot of fun because when I went to this meetup, I would just very nonchalantly, because nobody recognized me, and I didn't expect anyone to, because even though the video was taking off, I knew that it was such a new thing. It was the first time my face had ever been in a video, and people were just now getting to know my channel. But, I would just be, sitting in line with one of the bronies and be like, hey, did you see that Bronies React, Teens React video? And they'd be like, oh, man, that thing was so funny. And they'd start quoting some from it. And it was great because they did not realize that I was the guy who was in it, the guy who made it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I made it. And I got a bunch of, like, double takes from it, and it was hilarious. And I was able to do it in a way where I was able to like pull aside like 2 or 3 people throughout the night, so not everybody figured out at once that I made the video.
Nice.
And I had so much fun with that. I'm like, oh, yeah, I did that. So it was fun.
Yeah, I can't. I watched all of them, and I can't stop and quote like some of them. Some of them are like so hilarious.
Yeah, I'm really lucky that that I get to put those together. It's a lot of work, but the people what's that?
Yeah, but it's definitely worth it.
Oh yeah, and the people I work with, these guys are great. They, sometimes timing, like there's one big thing with the reacts, and I know that sometimes they'll come out later than others. And this most recent one was more delayed because of some copyright issues with my channel, which were resolved. But I always tell people, don't expect it before about a month after the episode or the movie or whatever we're reacting to, because I like to give the people I'm working with time. I understand that they're not doing this for money. They're not doing this as a job. They have lives, they have school, or they have work, and it's important for me to give them their space and their time. It's not right for me to expect them to get me their footage in a week. I want to give them a certain amount of time. And that's important to me because I love working with these guys, and I always, want them to know that, hey, I respect what you do, and I love what you do, and I want to make this work. So it's such a pleasure to put these together and then see everyone's reactions once they're together. And we always have a small viewing party, once each one comes out. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm lucky to be able to put them together.
That's awesome. Well, since we're on the subject of movies, because you seem to be enjoying Zootopia way too much.
That is a matter of opinion.
Is there like a particular like group of movies that you like? Do you like Disney? Like, do you like animated films? Do you like live action films? And
I'm very non-picky, but I grew up with Disney, like a lot of us did.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, Disney was a part of my childhood, but it's funny because there's no like Disney movie that I could have pinpointed and said that's my favorite. Like when people would ask what my favorite movie was, or at least favorite animated movie or favorite Disney movie, I typically would side towards like Rescuers Down Under type of movie. But still, it's not like it topped my list or I had like an overwhelming victory like Zootopia is. That movie is completely and by far taken over. In no way that any movie ever has affected me at any point in my life. And but no, I mean, live action movies, animated movies. I'm very open to a lot of types of movies. So I don't really have a specific genre that is like that is my genre. But I like movies.
Nice. All right, so this question, a lot of people have been asking this, and I know you've answered it a lot, but I'm just going to reiterate. How does one get on the Bronies React?
Oh, yes, the question. People, I think a lot of people that watch the series, which I am super thankful to have the audience that I have. It's so cool that I have people that anticipate. I have people that are so interested in becoming a part of it. And the reason I have to be so selective with the people that I have on the show is because I get requests every day. Very rarely do I see less than 5 requests a day through various, forms of social media. And that's not a complaint. That's cool to me that people are so interested and excited about the series. But as far as how to get on, I always tell people that the best chance they can give themselves on being on a Bronies React is to make content, is to do what they love and to make content. I base it off of a few things as far as when I decide who's going to be on a Bronies React. I like to have kind of a core group of reactors. And ever since I started this as a series, which I didn't realize it was going to be a series until we kicked into the second and third episode of the Reacts, I wanted to have that core group and then have a group that I can always kind of cycle through and then have one maybe sometimes have a special guest here and there, like Larson, or sometimes we have Michelle Krieber come on. And so I've always liked to have a changing, fluid group of people. As far as how to get on it, like I said, making content, making an impact on the fandom is a big one for me. Either make an impact on the fandom or make an impact on me specifically. The last React we had involved 2 guys that had never been on Bronies React before, and those 2 guys also had by comparison, very small following on YouTube. It is the Fire Team Harmony, and they actually have a whole group of people. But I met them at Pacific PonyCon, and they were hilarious. They were so quick and witty and funny, and I was like, on top of the fact of all the effort they put in their suits, I'm just like, Saber and I kind of looked at each other and went, these guys would be perfect. And so I contacted them. It wasn't a matter, because some people think it's like, oh, you need this many subscribers. It's never been a subscriber. There's never been a number that I've looked at. And these guys are a great example of that, because they made me laugh. And I was like, I think they would be really good. And I think we'd be able to introduce them to the fandom in a bigger way than they've been introduced. And I'm happy to say that, success there, because they contacted me, and I'm even going to look right now. But they were like, after that Bronies React came out, their subscriber numbers shot through the roof. They're right now closing in on passing 2,000 subscribers, and I think they were in the 30s when that React came out. So it's really cool to me that I can have an impact like that on people that I think deserve it. And these guys, they cracked me up. It was awesome.
Well, I just would like to point out that, I wouldn't actually be starting this podcast if it wasn't for, you guys, to be honest.
That's awesome. We always love to hear that, where it's super special to us that we can inspire. And I think that's one of the that's one of the things that keeps this fandom breathing and strong, is that, creation, breeds creation, and it's what got me doing it. And I've had people come up and say that's what got me doing this type of art or this type of videos, and it's cool. It's so cool to be able to have a positive impact.
Yeah, because I think it was 2013 when I actually first went to my first pony convention, which just happened to be BronyCon. Because at the time, Saber and Paleo were still doing a podcast. Might remember the Brony Breakdown podcast. It was the best podcast ever.
Oh, that trash!
How dare you!
No, I remember their podcast really well. It's funny because I think it was scheduling or school or whatnot. I wasn't always able to catch it, but I was able to be a guest a couple times on their show, and yeah, that thing had a great following and really loyal base of viewers. It was great.
Yeah, and meeting Saber and Paleo for the first time, meeting you for the first time, it really inspired me, and I wanted to try to do something, but I wasn't sure what it was because I thought I'd try podcasting, but then I didn't know what it was going to be about until because I follow all of you guys on like Twitter and Tumblr, and I noticed like on Tumblr you guys get asked a lot of questions, and some of them are repeat questions, and it's like, what if I interviewed these guys and asked the same question but have it recorded so that way when you guys do get asked the same question, you can be like, hey, you can just check this video, it's got all these questions that are answered.
Yeah, every now and then I'll do a Q&A video for that same reason where it's like, let's see if I can let people know, but you'll no matter what, you always get questions that are repeats, but at the same time that's not a problem. The fact that people are interested, the fact that people are watching, that's the important thing, and it's really cool.
Thanks. All right. So, do you have any words of wisdom for people who are just starting out, like on a project or maybe starting a YouTube channel or anything like that?
Tips for people starting?
Yeah.
A really big piece of advice is no, I don't like the don'ts. Let's start with the do's. Do what you enjoy. Do something that interests you. Do something that sounds fun, that excites you. Do something different. There's a lot of people that go into, I want to make a YouTube channel. But then they sit back and they're overwhelmed with, but what am I going to do? There never needs to be, and my channel I think is a great example of this, there never needs to be this concrete, I'm going to be just an analyst, or I'm going to just do animations, or I'm just going to do this. My channel has all sorts of crap all over it. It's got racing videos, it's got reactions, it has PMVs. I make what I want, and I put up the stuff that I hope my audience will enjoy, but I enjoy it existing in the first place. I enjoy that I made this video, and therefore, no matter what the outcome is from the audience standpoint, whether the video is a success or whether the video only garners a couple of views, as long as I enjoyed making it, that's what matters. As long as I can go back and watch this video and say, I'm glad I made this video, and there are videos I have of this, that's the important thing, is to make what you are enjoying. This is where I get into the don'ts. And you hear this a lot in the community, and probably in many communities, where, don't make it just with the thought of, I'm going to make this to get big, or I'm going to make this to get a lot of, I'm going to contradict myself here, but where people say, I want to get a big following. At the same time, don't let that not be the goal. It's, if you can go into it saying, I aspire to have a big audience, that's fine. But don't get discouraged by how long it might take you to get that audience. Don't be discouraged if your audience isn't as big as the next YouTuber or the next person that's, making some content, because it's important that as long as you're enjoying yourself, that should be number one. You should be doing this stuff for fun. I mean, very rarely does somebody make a career out of the stuff that we're doing. And, I'm not. I'm doing it for fun, and the fact that I'm able to not only do the videos for fun, but then on top of that, go to these conventions and help put on a show and bring smile and laughter to the people in the audience, that's what it's all about to me. And I absolutely love that I am able to be in a position to do that, to bring laughs and smiles to people from videos that I create. That is the ultimate win right there.
That's pretty amazing because when I first started out thinking about this, I'm like, is it going to be big or is it not going to be big? But it's like, who cares? But the one thing that really bothers me is if it does get big when I don't expect it and I like go to a convention, the weirdest thing that's going to bother me is like somebody coming up to me and like asking for my autograph.
Oh, you think that bother you?
Well, I don't know. It just seems like I didn't expect it to be as big as I thought it would, but
well, it's funny because there are different types of people in the world, and there's some who strive for the attention, and there's some that strive for the fun, and there's some that don't care about any of it. There's some that just want to make content but to be left alone. There's all sorts of different type of people out there. For us, I'll never forget the first time somebody asked for my autograph. It was at Everfree Northwest, 2012. And first off, when I showed up, I was like, I wonder if anyone's going to recognize me. And that stemmed from when I went to that Disneyland meetup, because once I mentioned the project, people knew the work that I had done. So then I was like, well, I wonder if anyone's going to recognize me. And before I walked through the door, some guy opens up the door and goes, ACRacebest, welcome. And I started laughing. I was like, well, I guess somebody recognized me, which was flattering. But then somebody asked for my autograph a few minutes later, and I went, yeah. And I had to figure out what my autograph was. Right then, right there, I'm like, what's my autograph going to be? I don't want to just sign my name because no one's going to, someone's going to look back at that someday and have no idea. Who's this? I can't even read it. And so I'm like, I want it to be legible, but it also needs to be signature-ish, autograph-ish. And then I'm like, I'll just do it. And I did. I just kind of swung it out, ACRacebest. And I'd actually be curious to see stuff I signed back in 2012 to see if it's evolved at all, because I have no idea if it has.
Well, I still have my poster of all of you guys signing it.
There you go. There you go. And it really is. It's a pleasure for us to the fact that people take the time out to seek us out and say, hey, can you sign this or can you take a picture? Some people I think get a little bit nervous about asking because I think they're, intruding. But, for the most part, unless we have somewhere that we have to get to, which happens, at these conventions where it's like, oh, we will try and let that person know. But if you meet us after this panel or at this time, then we can take care of all the stuff. So sometimes it's a time crunch, but for the most part, it's really cool that we can essentially give a minute of our time and make someone's day with that. And it's something that I don't think I will never take for granted. It's amazing.
All right, nice. All right, are there any future projects that you would like to mention?
Oh man, well, to everyone's chagrin, I have Zootopia projects in the works. No, what I don't have right now in the works is a Bronies React, which that could change at any minute. But after the last one, I'm like, all right, time to regroup here. But as we talked about earlier, the low budgets is just getting into season 4, and so there's going to be quite a bit of that coming. There's going to be a lot of pony cars. There's going to be a lot of other themed cars. Like I said, there's going to be a Zootopia car that is coming in the near future. And in addition to that, I have some Zootopia videos that I'm actually looking to, or I've been looking to branch into a more broad audience. I'm never going to leave the pony stuff, but I've always wanted to get into a broader animation channel and make a lot of content around Disney, but I never had that segue where I went, okay, now is when it makes sense. And then Zootopia happened, and I went, I think now it makes sense. So I'm looking to maybe start a potential new series that revolves not only around Zootopia, but maybe even around Disney in general, and just see where I could take this. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited because there's never a ceiling. It's always about what can I do next, what do I want to do next, and I'm definitely looking to expand more into the Disney audience, and who knows, maybe even make some videos at Disneyland or something. I go there enough, so yeah,
Lucky.
you never know.
Well, you can keep your Disney. We have Canopy Lake Park.
Oh, I'm jealous. You got me.
Because one thing that I'm curious is because I know sometimes you like to do a Halloween Bronies React,
Mm-hmm.
and lately there hasn't really been a whole lot of Halloween videos.
You know, the first Halloween react we ever did was to cupcakes, I believe, and that was an idea that crossed my mind. Like, oh my gosh, what if we did this? And I was the one who's like, everyone dress up in some kind of Halloween costume. Let's make this as corny as possible. And then Smile HD happened, and then of course Generation 3. And I've actually been told, like Paleo, he's told me that if it ever came down to it, we could line up some more Generation 3 episodes for something like that, which terrifies me because I barely survived the first round.
Yeah.
But I've already looking at the schedule that's coming. I could tell that I'm already kind of crying inside. I didn't necessarily have anything lined up for a Halloween react, but I did have something that was potentially lined up for a holiday react, and it might still happen. I don't know yet. And the only reason I don't know is because it was announced this weekend that Equestria Girls 4 is apparently coming out in early October. I'm weeping because that means I'll have less than a month if I wanted to get it out by Halloween. So I don't know if we're going to have necessarily a Halloween react this year, but Equestria Girls is probably going to be coming out right in that time frame.
Nice. This is another side note because I believe I brought this up. I don't remember. I can't remember which year it was. It was either 2014 or 2015. But I asked you if you would ever do a Bronies react to The Last Unicorn.
Oh, The Last Unicorn. A funny story, actually. A couple years ago, Saber and I went out to work a concert in D.C. with the Creevers and Black Griffin, and it was a Magic of Christmas concert, and it was super fun. Had a blast with it, and we got out there early enough to where Saber and I, everyone was getting ready for the concert, and we kind of just had this moment of like, so what do you want to do for the next few hours? And I don't even know how, or if it was suggested, or if it was just sitting there, but Saber found The Last Unicorn, and he popped it in, and I recorded it. I recorded our reactions to it. The problem I've had is I've never been able to find a matching copy of The Last Unicorn that matches up with what we watched, and it's really weird. I don't know if we watched a special edition or what, but I'm like, none of the timing on this is so off. And at this point, what ended up happening at Everfree Northwest, we actually were part of a live riffing panel with I Love Kim Possible a lot and Josh Scorcher, and so we got to do a riffing of The Last Unicorn. So that was a trip. That was doggy. Who knows?
I was gonna ask you if you could do a riffing, but you already did it. So I was like, shoot, I missed it.
It has happened. The good thing about that movie is so much of it. Just thinking back to it now, I'm like, I don't even remember like half of it.
Yeah.
It's such a trip. But does that mean that there's never a possibility that we won't react to it? Not necessarily. The only issue I have with a movie like that is that copyrights are different for each and every movie company.
Of course.
So I always have to play a very safe game when it comes to working around the copyrights, because that's why the riffing panel never went on online. Was it would get nabbed immediately with copyright. I did try to upload it; it didn't work.
That stinks. So, last question is, can you think of any like other repeat questions that people have asked you that you can think off the top of your head?
Repeat questions that people have asked me off the top of my head. Oh gosh. No, that's an interesting question. I don't know. Like, I can think of, like, really weird ones.
Yeah, that's fine. We only have if you can spare it. If you can spare it. I mean, we're almost at the hour mark.
Yeah, I'm weird as in, like, they're, like, so not or they're so specific. I'm trying to think if there's any, like, really common ones that I've been asked. I know one thing that people ask us a lot involve like moments at conventions, um, or oh, you know what people ask me all the time actually is how much do I ship Judy and Nick from Zootopia? There's a question I should answer. Um, yes, incredibly.
Yes, incredibly.
Terribly hard. Have you seen Zootopia?
I think, believe it or not, I was watching the Semi Perfect podcast, or I don't remember which one it was. I don't know if it was Paleo's or yours, but I think you mentioned Zootopia and you had seen it like 2 or 3 times already, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the movie theater and see what the fuss is about. And I watched it, and I was like, now I understand why he likes this movie so much.
Yes, good. You've seen it. Now, my question to you is: do you see Judy and Nick just being friends, or do you see them becoming a couple in the event that the sequel happens? Where do they go from here?
Well, they definitely seem like the cute couple at the very end of the movie.
Do you ship it?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Good answer. I ran a poll the other day. It was a week-long poll, and this is probably going to be a video that's going to be coming out soon because it's one of those big like shipping topics where there's a group of people that are like no, and there's the people that yes, and then there's the ones that are like I'm good either way, and so I think that's going to be a fun one to get some juices flowing. But yeah, no, I that movie's definitely taken a huge toll on me in the best of ways.
Nice. All right, let's see if I can think of anything else. Unless there's anything you want to ask me at this point.
Oh, see, they're all going to be Zootopia related. Who's your favorite character in Zootopia?
I'd have to say Judy because it's really interesting how she's the odd one out and everyone's kind of mean to her for like no specific reason. And it's like why? But she just keeps going, and she ends up completing her goals, and I think that's kind of awesome.
Good choice. Good choice.
Somebody made a crossover picture. I saw it on Facebook. It was, unfortunately, it was Flash Sentry and Twilight. It was
I
Twilight.
Saw that. I saw that. How unfortunate.
How unfortunate indeed.
Black Griffin was somewhere screaming.
Oh, there was an awesome panel at BronyCon that happened. It was the Super Duper Slumber Party where they had like the Equestria girls like all in costumes.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Flash Sentry just shows up and be like, "What's up?" And everyone's like, "Boo!"
Was that the gala or was that something else?
It was something else.
Oh, okay.
And it was pretty funny because I guess when they started the Q&A, like somebody legit asked, "Flash, how come you don't have a personality?" And he's like, "You're just jealous because you can't do this." And he like reached his arm around Twilight.
Oh my goodness. You people and your people. Your horse people.
Yeah. I believe that's everything.
Awesome.
Unless there's anything else that you want to talk about, it doesn't matter to me.
Oh, I'm good. I got editing, man. I am primed and ready to go with the editing. If anyone has any extra water, they can throw it this way. Because California is in a drought, and we have a huge fire happening right now, so that's exciting.
That sucks.
Yeah.
All right. Very well. Well, this concludes this episode of the Wasteland Radio, and I will keep you people posted on the next one, if there is going to be a next one. I might ask Race to maybe lend me a hand with that if he decides he wants to.
A hoof.
I see what you did there. But yeah, what it is I have a hard time getting a hold of some of these people because I know most of them are on Twitter, and I like message them on Twitter, and I like never hear back from them. It's like, did it go through? Did they read it? Did they skip it? Or it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, a lot of people can be busy, but I suggest just going the route I did when I first got started, and you never know when you're going to catch a bite. So keep trying. You'll catch somebody. You'll get them. Someone, sometime, somewhere.
Indeed. Well, this is Ranger Red Star signing off with my good man AC Racebest.
All right.